Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Collective Intelligence Block Party number 21. We are now kicking off the first of two segments under the banner of Food Healers, led by Dr. Sailesh Rao. Welcome, Sailesh. How are you doing today? You're on mute.
Thank you. And thank you for hosting this. We got the binary yesterday and everything looks good so far. And I'm so thrilled that we seem to have an app that does what we think it's going to do. I was listening to Brett, and I think you have it right, Brett. We need to really create coherence. So we are all talking about, going in the same direction. And it begins with healing ourselves first. So unless there are whole people working on this, we won't have a whole system. You're absolutely right about that. So that's the intent of the Food Healers segment on the app. It's to help people heal themselves first with good food. And make good food easily available to people. And that's our job. And I realized maybe 2-3 years ago when my granddaughter asked me to create a vegan world, and at first I thought, who am I to do it, right? And then I realized as an engineer, it really is my job, to at least put it together, to say this is how you could get there. Because that's what engineers do, apply science to make sure that you can get to where you want to go. And so getting, thinking about what was happening in the world and how over 1 billion people are eating bad food and getting obesity and all kinds of other problems from eating bad food, all pushed by marketing. And simultaneously, another 1 billion people are going hungry because they're not getting enough food. And you say, can't you put the two together and create something better for humanity? So that's the idea behind Food Healers. And so now it's a matter of just deploying it and getting people to sign up, getting places of worship to sign up. So, and then creating this infrastructure, of people actually serving others so that they can get the food to people. I'm happy to see Vince here.
How you doing, Ray? How you doing, Sailesh?
Sailesh, yeah.
Yeah, but Ray's here too. Are you here, Ray? Yeah, there's Ray. Yeah. Hello, Ray.
Yeah, I am. My computer's not working that well.
All right.
No worries.
Sailesh, good to see you.
Well, as you mentioned, like, you got a billion people dying of heart disease and cancer and all that in the wealthier segments from eating the wrong foods, and which really means consuming too many resources to make the wrong foods, animal products, and then people starving on the other hand. Can't we just put the two together and figure out a better way? Ray, I'm going to mute you. Get a little feedback there. Yeah. You can do it. Alrighty. So, and what occurs to me, it's kind of like, Kelly, how you doing? Good to see you. Just to make an analogy, I'm always making analogies, but it's like, and since we got some awesome Canadians in the house, I'll use a Canadian hockey example. It's like, basically telling the Canadian players, hey, stop elbowing the other players, stop being so mean on the field. It's still the case that if you win this game, we'll give you $10 million, and if you lose, we'll fire you and you'll go to the poorhouse. But while you're playing, be nice to other people. It just doesn't fit. If they're in this game of life or death, they're going to play like it's life or death. And we're all born into this ridiculous game.
Hockey is life or death. You Americans have to stop trying to clean up hockey.
Okay. Anyway, I was just using an example, but you know, my point being simply that we need to holistically redesign the whole game, right? And of course, that's what we're up to here with Collective Intelligence and the conversation, which starts in a little less than 23 hours from now, as a network of conversations. So, but, you know, to begin, it seems to make sense that each of us would kind of be, you know, the different groups would work on different parts. Here we are talking about food healers in a specific context. Another group will be talking about SRM and cooling the planet. Another group will be talking about political transformation, and on and on and on. So it seems to make sense that we would start, you know, with groups working on the parts, and then gradually these groups would come together and sort of integrate. And that's what Collective Intelligence is all about, at least our vision of it. So anyway, I was just trying to put that into a little bit of a broader context. Because it is one gigantic, pretty complex puzzle that we need to sort out, right? And it's way more complex than just a 3D puzzle that you would get at some science museum and go home and try to figure out, because it's a dynamic puzzle, right? We're in a current dynamism where everything is changing and evolving according to certain paradigms, and we're trying to get into a whole new dynamism with whole other paradigms. And how do you where's the off ramp to the current insanity, and where's the on ramp onto utopia, kind of thing. Anyway, I'm going to go on mute.
Yeah, the app is not yet live. It is, I mean, I do have a Google Play account and an Apple account that I've sent to people, sent to the developers so they can upload it. But I'm just going through all of the pages and making sure that there are no bugs in it before. And so far I found only minor ones, you know, needs to be changed. But otherwise it's ready to go live within the next week or so. You should be able to just download it from Google Store. Okay. There are also lots of things, moving parts around it that are happening, because we are trying to get, like Nivi is working on getting the current marketing engine, you know, churning around food healers so that we can get more people to want it. You know, so we are talking to Ogilvy, and then someone from India who is also an expert at marketing. So trying to tell the right story so that people want it. And then, you know, we're also looking at doing focus groups around people, the initial people who sign up, so that we can understand what works, what doesn't work, and therefore make it better. So because we want this is one shot we have, you know. I don't think we can afford to fail on this and then say we'll try again another time later. Now this is it. We got to get this thing done right. So we've been spending a lot of time and effort around making this go smoothly, and so that we understand what we are doing, and then roll it out in a much bigger scale. All right. Yes, Jamin.
Yeah, so a thought occurs to me, Silas, which is, so the app, the basic idea of the app is, you know, connecting, you know, essentially sources of food or sources of food production with people who need the food. And I think once that connection is made, that's an awesome start. Then obviously they could simply, you know, get on the phone and talk with each other and start to, you know, work out more details. But now consider that a different vector than that sort of one-on-one communication is to say, hey, why don't both of you all join this network of conversations called The Conversation, most of which I'm going to go out on a limb and predict that most of the people joining the Collective Intelligence, say in the next 6 months or 12 months, will be people who join to work on food specifically. because that is the big common denominator. It's just the big, obvious, put your oxygen mask on humanity so that you can help the planet sitting in the seat next to you, right? Humanity needs to be fueled up or we're not going anywhere, right? Or we're going in a direction of violence and Mad Max. People don't like to starve, and they actively resist it when it happens, and things can get pretty ugly if we let people starve. So, so again, inviting everyone into the conversation, into the network of conversations, so that in Kansas City, where Vince is, you got a bunch of people on the Kansas City channel saying, all right, how are we going to solve it for Kansas City? So city by city, just imagine a whole bunch of different rooms. And for a big city like Chicago, there might be 20 rooms, right? 2 of the rooms are just focused on urban gardens. How do we grow food in Chicago, right? And maybe 5 of the rooms are focused on the whole state of Illinois and the whole region. How do we get grain from farms that are 200 miles away to Chicago, right? How do we get it financed? How do we get it donated? How do we get volunteers, et cetera, et cetera? So it's really a massively multidimensional problem. And I think the exciting thing is when we come together and we see that we're not alone, and that we see that we're part of a network, and that's, wow, this is a big movement and this is so exciting. And, if I'm, a person with very good intentions sitting in my high-rise apartment in Chicago, and I learned that there's 20 conversations happening right now in Chicago about solving food insecurity, I'm going to feel like a kid in a candy shop, right? Shoot, where do I plug in, right? And I think the way I see it is really like this. It's like any exponential, exponential has 3 parts: flatline, knee, and vertical. We've been flatline for so long that we're just kind of like almost out of hope. Like when you're on that long journey, you're almost dead, and it's just 1 more mile to go. Can I make it? Can I make it? Well, we're now at the end of that mile, Miracle Mile, or wherever they call it in Magnificent Mile, or wherever they call it in Chicago. We're now on that final stretch, and people are joining, and people are getting the magic of it, and the dream, the vision, the promise. So, anyway, all that is to say is I would love to see the K-Mama app have essentially a big arrow pointing to the network of conversations, and say, look, we started life connecting, surplus food with hungry people. It's thematch.com, connecting stomachs with piles of food. And we're now evolving into something much bigger. Join us, right? Hey, if you want to use it just to find connections in your local area, go for it. That was the original conceptualization. And if you want to take it a step further and join the conversation, join the network, please do. Welcome, right? Anyway, going on mute.
No, that's a great idea, Jamin. I think you're right. That's exactly how it's going to happen going forward. Because the traditional ways of doing things with, just one person giving a talk and people listening, we've gone far enough with that. We're not going to go any further with that. Yeah. Well, we can link to videos that are already there, and I think the idea of having a trusted set of people to do the onboarding, certified compassionate or whatever. What do you call them? Certified compassionate people.
Certified compassionate leaders. To lead, like I am the nominated CCL, Certified Compassionate Leader, for this meeting because I'm hosting it, etc. Actually, you and I both are, Silas, and now with Kamaya here, the 3 of us. Go for it, Silas.
Yeah, she's here. She just woke up, and I think she's sending a text message to everybody. Yeah, I think having people to onboard, because otherwise it could get chaotic, right? If you have people shouting at each other in the room, it's not going to help. So you really need to have these simple rules in place so that people have safe space for conversations.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you think of the early days of the wild west of the internet, right? And you were there right in the middle of it, Silas. I wasn't, but I imagine it was a bit chaotic, and there were security issues here and there, and privacy issues here and there. Kamaya, hey, sweetheart, good to see you. How are you, Kamaya?
Yeah.
He's a hair sticking out.
Okay.
Anyway.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah. And then, you know, what did you do, Silas, you and company? You created protocols. You created standards. You created TCP IP. You created all these, you know, whatever. And so order started to emerge. What I see here happening right now with the Zoomosphere, right now it's like the Wild West. You got Zoom bombers, you got this, that, you know, people trying to sell stuff, people trying to hack, and it's just crazy. So, and because of that, that is probably the single biggest reason, lack of safety. And I'm talking about safety at an emotional level, psychological, psychic, spiritual, everything, you know, social. If people don't feel safe, they're not going to jump in, right? And so I think we have what we're seeing here, you know, the half dozen of us who are on this call right now represent a tiny, tiny slice. We're a representative sample of a very tiny slice of humanity, which is basically that segment of humanity that is on the court having these radical transformational conversations, right? And the reason we're so small is not because other people aren't benevolent or don't have good intentions or don't want to help. It's that it's not safe yet. It has to be safe. So what we're doing here is actually making it safe by creating, Silas mentioned certified compassionate. We within Radish, and now everyone's welcome, have been developing a standard for certified compassionate called CCC, originally formulated for the economy, for transforming the economy. CCC stands for Certified Compassionate Companies, but it could apply to anything. And so here we're talking about certified compassionate conversations. Can you certify that this conversation is compassionate? If it is, how would you know? You know, how would you measure that? How do you measure compassion? Well, one of the cool things is, well, I mean, one of the simplest ways is, are people listening to each other? Or are people interrupting each other, right? If somebody raises their hand, will they be called upon or will they be ignored? Like Ray just raised his hand, I'm gonna ignore him. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not gonna ignore him because this is a compassionate conversation. So, you know, likewise, there are a bunch of rules, and this really gets to this interesting boundary layer between kind of the fuzzy and the concrete, right? How do you detect when someone is being condescending to someone else, right? And there's a subset of filmography, which I won't mention, but I think most of us have heard the quote, you know, I cannot define this subset of filmography, but I know it when I see it, right? It's kind of like that. And so I think so there's really an art and a science to this creating a compassionate conversational domain, right? But the first ones to do it are essentially going to be the next Google, the next Facebook. What did Google do? They created a safe way to search for stuff, and you can click on stuff and, you know, it's safe. Facebook created a safe way to essentially say, hi, I'm here, I'm single, I'm nice, and I want to make friends and not get a bunch of rotten eggs thrown at you. Of course, it's not perfect. None of these systems are perfect. But the least perfect of all these systems is the conversational domain, because even the conversational domain is a subset of a larger space, which is how humans interact with each other, how we relate to each other. Are we in a domination-dominated relationship? Are we in a commercial relationship? You know, is it, you know, what kind of relationship? So conversation is, in a sense, anyway, all I'm saying is it's a subset of something much bigger. So while we can, you know, just like I was talking earlier about, hey, we can solve food, but we're in a much bigger context. Similarly with conversation. Anyway, when I feel myself getting too loquacious, I'm going to self-mute. And Ray, you had your hand up, so go for it, Ray, if it's a good time, or Kelly.
Hi, Sorry, I've been putting my hand up. Our Ray's computer is freezing, so that's why we have the camera off. Salish, you mentioned that Nivi is writing some material around it. Is she going to be writing any type of like material that once we start reaching out to places of worship, like that we could use to kind of, you know, present what K-Mama is and this and that, you know, or like a letter, you know, an outreach letter or anything like that to use? Or is that where the people who are taking the initiative are going to be sort of more able to be more free-flowing there?
A kit.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
is. Sorry. Nivi is not working on that. She's working more at a higher level.
Okay.
And
And are you seeing the outreach to be like consistent like that, where there's like sort of a one message, one, you know, yeah, I guess like a one message to it?
yeah, actually, if you create one, you know, it could become the template for all the others.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely work on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to make sure that I'm not saying anything that doesn't want to be said, and, you know, just like so that the message is given the thumbs up and it's, you know, how you want it to be presented, right?
Yeah, you know, if you can create one and then put it up on a Google Doc, I'll just work with it.
Okay, great. Yeah, I kind of see like an intro letter, you know, just like who we are, what we're doing, what we can offer you, and then if they want something that, you know, for them, you know, maybe there could be like, you know, sort of similar about who we are, like taking that same messaging for them to be able to let their congregations or, you know, their people know who's helping. Okay, that's great.
Thanks, Kelly. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna add in more to my sheet because I think I can easily take off in Toronto with it. So I'm just sort of waiting until yeah, until we know we should. And there's so much going on in Toronto. So I'm also kind of wrapping my head around who could help us with this, right? You know, for, you know, maybe for places of worship that maybe doesn't have kitchens or doesn't have chefs or, you know, maybe doesn't have the support that they might need to get this done. Because there's really amazing organizations that's doing like food. They're not places of worship, but they're, you know, like nonprofits. There's like the vegetarian food bank, things like that, right? That I think we could get involved and help. Yeah, get their help as well.
Are community centers typically busy at these kind of, like at the peak of these pandemic lockdowns?
Yeah, that's what we're seeing. Like there's a local community center that is doing this, and not that I know we're working with places of faith, but if they are more likely to have like kitchen space if the place of worship doesn't, that maybe we can collaborate with them, right, if they're close by, and give people who are working at these community centers something to do as well.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
I thought of one more, actually stemming off of what Jim was talking about, the sports analogy, the hockey analogy, where I was doing my little role playing. But I entered into the chat that we have to want an equilibrium of survival for our people more than we want pro sports to come back. John Oliver does a bit about how badly people want pro sports to come back, to the tune of 20,000 people per franchise being tested on a daily basis. this is how desperate we are to get pro sports back. Yet we wouldn't see the same kind of cooperation on a food program, you know, getting everybody fed. And if those stadiums are not being used, isn't that possibly another venue by which people could be gathered to, or not even gathered, you wouldn't necessarily want to be congregated, but use that facility to help feed? And usually they're sponsored by big corporations that, you know, would benefit from the high-profile feeding program. That's something I think after it starts taking off and we go, this is too popular for the number of churches that we've got, start opening up stadiums. The Joel Osteen church, which is a converted stadium in itself. Although I recall that when the flooding happened, he wasn't willing to open his doors to help the flooding victims, so you never know. Food, not balls. Just don't take away your pucks.
Alrighty. So,
Actually, it was a long conversation that dates back with a friend of mine on Facebook that the impact of the carbon footprint of pro sports is so huge, and he wanted to challenge that. And I said, "You think veganism is unpopular? Taking away pro sports, man? I think that's even more of an uphill battle." But it just really came into sharp relief when the COVID crisis hit, and we're asked to really find our priorities. And it's a hot day in Toronto, so everybody's out at the beach.
beautiful. Alrighty. So has had her hand up for a bit. Go for it, So.
Do you have mutual aid networks over there? Do you know the mutual aid model of helping out? Are you familiar with that?
I don't know the term of mutual aid network.
It's a kind of anarchist way of operating. So we've got that happens straight away here, everywhere, all over UK. Before the councils had anything going, the mutual aid just emerged from neighbourhoods, and basically we've got phone networks and everything. People say they need food, they might put something in the window, then there was a little bit of discussion about that, was that compromising their safety? And it was like moving along, and basically you go and get people shopping, you go and get their prescription from, you go and cash in their prescription from the chemist or the pharmacy, as you call it. And it was quite interesting actually in the groups. Quite early on, there was kind of a conflict between the controlling types who were more, they liked, you know, rules, and the mutual aid types who were anarchistic, who just liked to get on and do it grassroots. And it was quite interesting watching, because I was involved with it right at the start. Then I pulled back for whatever reason, but it was quite interesting to watch. I'm definitely more on the mutual aid side, not too much control. That because the minute the controllers came in, they were stopping it from happening, and they tended to have a focus of what about crime? You know, the usual thing. They're absolutely obsessed with people. You know, they couldn't think of the crime of people not being fed, or the crime of people having nobody and dying alone in their homes. It was always the crime of, oh, somebody's going to take some boring piece of possession and all that kind of thing. But anyway, there's loads online about it, the philosophy of mutual aid. The other thing I wanted to say was, like, I know it's really, really hard, but you've got to be careful who you get into bed with regarding help. You know, that's how, it's like letting corruption in right from the get-go if you're not careful. You've got to get really elegantly clever about self or a cooperative financing. I mean, there are plenty of models in history to draw upon, but this, they can help us. And I hear this, this big business here, I wouldn't trust them as far as I would throw them.
I love what you're saying. And what occurs to me, this ties in with what we were talking about earlier. So now imagine that we go from compassion in the realm of conversations, right? Which I would say in the grand scheme is a relatively easy thing to define, right? And now let's fast forward a few weeks. There's a whole bunch of people having a whole bunch of conversations, networks of conversations, etc. And compassion is our foundation. So if we're treating each other compassionately in conversation, what if we then expand from that, from conversation to action? Now we know what compassionate conversation is. Okay, great. What's compassionate action? Is it compassionate to do a deal with some corporation where they get some exclusivity or some access that others don't get, or I don't know what, right? Well, we're trying to feed people, right? And I think this is your point. So be careful who you get in bed with. And so I would,
and also, Jamin, an example of that this is people getting PR out of the good thing that's happening always. I mean, Greta Thunberg has recently come out. She was used and abused dreadfully at the last COP. She had absolute monstrous people like Prince Charles having a photo thing with her. Of course, she's a young girl. She's going to be polite to an old man, you know, who suddenly comes up and wants to shake her hand, and somebody pulls out the camera. He'd been flying around for days, polluting the atmosphere in his private jet. An absolute horror story. Do not get me on the boils. I will just blow every freaking gasket I've got. And she was abused, and she's come out and said they all wanted their Photoshop with photo opportunity with her. And that's just an example. You just got to start clean. You know, 5 years hence it'll get dirty, but don't go down that route of letting any muck in. Just don't let it happen.
Thanks. So I think that's great feedback. I just looked up Mutual Aid Phoenix, and they're doing a lot of good work.
It's fabulous, because the thing about anarchists is a big pacifist tradition in the anarchists. You've also got Christian anarchists, and anarchists like to just get on with it. They like the action, and they've often got very, very high moral standard anarchists. You know, they can be quite purist even, you know, but they're, you know, it's in the body. They get it done. They're on the ground, and they've really worked out. The anarchist tradition has really worked out this corruption thing, you know. It's a good philosophy to go look at.
you know, what's interesting here, see, what we're now at the cusp of with collective superintelligence is essentially a way for all of us anarchists, right? The anarchist in all of us, who basically says, I don't like the current system. And in fact, I'm very angry about it. And whereas, you know, 40 years ago, they might have said, well, therefore, I'm going to go grab a baseball bat and start banging and protesting. We now have a venue to basically say, look, we're all angry. We're all frustrated. But you know what? We're going to leave our baseball bats with the sporting good equipment for appropriate use. Let's instead come together and have a meeting of the minds and create a collective superintelligence with which we can now start to do incredibly good things. And in fact, have a lot more power than the so-called powers that be. Because consider that the ultimate determinant of power here on this planet is going to be some combination of intelligence and a durable unity, right? If a segment of humanity can become super intelligent and unified, watch out, right? Because the reality is that regardless of how many nuclear warheads you have and how much foreign currency you've got in your bank accounts, hard currency, and these other apparent mechanisms of power, just consider that the power of those institutions, of those governments, is limited by how intelligent they are. It's kind of an obvious statement if you just think about it. Well, like, duh, okay. Well, if you then carry that to its conclusion, if 1 billion benevolent human beings come together and form a collective superintelligence, which is literally orders of magnitude more intelligent by any objective measure than, say, the United States government, I would posit that that movement of 1 billion people who've just now manifested collective superintelligence, with that collective superintelligence, they will end up orchestrating governments around the world. They will replace governments, whether they vote them out or revolutionize them out, right? Intelligence will prevail. That's just benevolent, unified intelligence will prevail. That's just a hypothesis. And so it, and for me, that directs me right back to here. How do we put this together, right? And we're doing it. Go for it, Ray. Yes.
I was just pointing out K Mama to Kamaya.
Yeah. Beautiful.
I want to know, Kamaya, where's this word come from? K Mama.
Just a brought up name.
I heard it's named after you.
Of course.
Because you're
I heard that
They almost
I heard
tried to
that
call me
you're-
my grandma, and I'm like, no.
you're a mama?
I'm like, no. Not even a mom.
Because you take care of everybody.
Huh? I didn't hear that.
Is it because you take care of everybody?
No, I just made that name up. I mean,
You don't take care of everybody.
okay, you can't. Oh, why? Oh, why?
You're a compassionate leader, somebody that sees somebody who's suffering and goes to them.
Yeah. She says, of course I do that.
What else would I be doing? Just sitting on the swings doing nothing? Who do you think I am?
Sitting on the swings reading some Tolstoy. If you see someone suffering, get close as you can, and try to help them.
Well, sometimes, of course, I need space.
Yeah. But now we're going to get as close as we can and try to feed them.
Yep.
Well, what if they need space too?
Then you let them say yes or no.
Or you could just wait until they change their mind. And there's so many things that we still haven't solved yet.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking about it. You got your whole life, so hopefully we'll be able to solve as many things until you take over.
Are you sure you're not an engineer?
I'm not an engineer. I
You're
got a
not an
Bachelor of Fine Arts. BFA, Bachelor of Finger Painting Arts.
Are you positive?
He thinks like an engineer, doesn't he?
Yeah. Very suspicious. Very suspicious.
All the theater students looked at us like we were engineers in the film department because we used machines
Of course.
and time code and math.
Are you sure you're not an engineer?
And computers, lots of computers.
I'm getting feisty. I'm getting feisty. That's not good.
How about you? Are you an engineer or an artist?
Depends.
There's no reason.
I'm too young. I'm too young for a job yet.
But
Good
do you want to be an
job.
engineer or an artist?
Wait, those are both the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Engineers are artists? Okay, that's great. I'd like to hear that.
In fact, I was about to sing a few words to Kamaya from a 1980s song. I'll ask Ray to mute or folks to mute because we get a little feedback. But the song, here's the paraphrase of the song. You can be an engineer, or you can be an artist, because in your heart you know you don't have to be one or the other. And in fact, because all
Beautiful, Jamin.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Just
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you. You inspired me.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you, sweetie. You've inspired me to sing, Kamai. In fact, I love to sing. In fact, growing up, both my parents would sing, right? You know, in the shower, in the kitchen, whatever. And so I just grew up as a little baby, just kind of, singing. So it was just natural for me. People sing, right? And here's
And
my
how come you haven't sang in our conversations?
what's that, Kamaya? Sorry.
How come you haven't sang in our conversations yet?
Well, because I didn't feel the invitation yet, but with yesterday, with your beautiful singing, now I feel the invitation and the inspiration. You see,
It's still here.
Kamaya, you should join our online art classes in August. Silas, I'm going to send you the info.
Please.
We've got this awesome group of young artists about your age, and we're going to do printmaking, which is super fun. You want to learn how to do printmaking, then you can do environmental flyers
Awesome.
and posters and cool stuff. All right.
Sure. I think,
I'd
yeah,
love
she would
to
love
do
that. She would love that.
All right, let's talk about it. All right, I'm doing the rounds feeding the chipmunks. So I'll see you later.
Thanks, sweetheart.
Okay.
See you in a bit.
See you, Kamaya.
See you when I see you. I don't think she'll really hear me though.
Yeah, she could hear you.
I
She
can
could
hear
she
you.
can hear you. Come on.
Oh,
You bet.
no.
Getting
Oh,
my big
oh.
boots off. I guess you'll probably appreciate these. These are my gardening boots.
Wow.
They're pretty wild, huh?
Yeah.
They're rubber. They're environmentally friendly. All right. See you, sweetie. See you guys.
Actually, Kamaya, I've done a fair amount of singing in public. I put on a big Darth Vader costume, all black. And I have a microphone and music, like background music, sort of like karaoke style. And I sing in public. And I've sung promoting different missions. One is to cool the planet. Another is to rid the world of criminal drug cartels. And I sing in both English and Spanish. In fact, if you'd like to hear me sing a Spanish love song, I'd love to sing one to you.
I actually have a question. Why are you Darth Vader? You could be a big Earth saying it's time for a conversation.
Totally. Well, part of the reason is to get people's attention. And actually, when I first got the Darth Vader costume, I was protesting criminal drug cartels who kill hundreds of thousands of innocent people and do all kinds of harm in the world. And I chose the Darth Vader costume to kind of symbolize the evil of criminal drug cartels, right? So I have this big sign that I made that says, "Criminal drug cartels out of the state of Washington." And there with my Darth Vader costume, it was quite a visual combination. And then with all the singing, oh my goodness. Folks really got into it.
And once you use your Earth costume, You can tuck all your legs and arms in and then just be roly-poly.
Yeah, I'll just be like dressed as one big whirl.
And
then
then just roll all over.
that's
the place.
right. If I need to go from one place to another, I just roll. Yeah.
You can't. There's no walking.
That's
you
right.
can't. You can't walk the earth.
Mhm.
The earth circles,
Yeah.
but it's going.
Mhm.
There's 2
I
planets of
wanted
Earth.
to do that at Comic Con. The Comic Con and the Fan Expo come to Toronto, and everybody gets dressed up for it. I was thinking that'd be a great place to do environmental outreach. Get dressed up as the world. Say, what are you a fan of? What is that? It's the planet. Your planet, man. You got to take care of it. You never did it though. Cost like $60 to get in.
Are you sure that was not a comedy? Are you sure that
Has
was
it
not a
been done?
comedy place?
Comic
I mean,
Con.
they could make it a
Yeah,
comedy
comic books
place
there.
about veganism.
About veganism. It would be great if it was about veganism.
Love you.
The real superheroes are vegan.
Sorry. Huh? Sorry, I didn't catch that. I was saying.
The real superhero should be vegan.
Yeah, of course. Why
You
not?
know any vegan superheroes?
Genesis.
Hannah, I forgot her last name though. Vegan Evan.
Genesis Butler, right?
Yeah.
She's a Marvel superhero.
Oh yeah. She's on Disney Plus too.
She's on Disney Plus now.
As a superhero.
As a superhero, yeah. She's a Marvel superhero.
In the Marvel Universe.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because, wow. We gotta see if we can get Disney Plus.
If you want, I can sing the song again for the 3rd time. Is that a yes or no? I'm confused.
Yeah, it's a yes.
Okay. I was like, I'm confused. You can always beat the challenge whenever life gets hard. You can always beat the challenge whenever it's too big. You can always beat the challenge. Wait, no. Challenge, yeah. But all you have to do is believe. All you have to do is believe. All you have to do is believe. I just dropped the mic. Oh no. Yeah.
Ah, beautiful, Kamaya.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a riddle, but I think Ray already knows it. Ray the raspberry already knows it.
Why do you call him the raspberry?
Because I said he was a fruit last time, and he told me I was an insect. Yeah, speaking of which, what type of insect am I? Am I a little beetle? Beetling around?
A love bug.
The love bug.
Oh, no! God.
That's what your mom calls you. That's what your dad calls you.
You're forgetting about Uncle Lovebug.
And Uncle Lovebug calls you that too.
Uncle Lovebug.
Is that right?
Yeah.
But that's not the riddle. But I know you already know it, so don't say anything. But you probably don't remember it, so that's That's something. Okay, hold on. Gotta refreshen it back in my brain. What do you hear once in a minute, twice in a moment, but never in 1,000 years? I'm gonna have another one after this. If you want, I can repeat it again. What do you hear once in a minute, twice in a moment, but never in 1,000 years? Give up, Vince?
Yeah, Vince gave up.
Vince came up?
I give up.
You give up? Gray, do you give up even though you probably don't remember it? No! No, he already had it! No! The answer is the letter M. And yes, he's right. Okay. Ray is right again. Once again. Alrighty.
Wait, what was the answer?
Letter M.
Oh,
Once in a minute, twice in a moment, but never in 1,000 years.
okay. Okay. I'm a little slow, Kamai. You really have to explain things to me a lot.
Got it. Got it. Okay, next one. What has a neck but no head? What? Ray, don't you answer it. Don't answer it.
Because Ray knows.
Yes,
Well,
of
I know.
course I know.
I know.
What?
A
Oh.
bottle.
Ah, man. Alrighty. What has a lot of holes but still can hold water? Ray, you already know it, and I already showed you what it is. What it was. Ah! What it. Go ahead, Jamin.
A cloud.
No. A cloud doesn't have a lot of holes. It has a lot of clouds.
A cloud is basically 99% holes, right?
No, it's 99% air and water.
Right, but the
Boom.
air are holes relative to the droplets of water.
Yeah. You're crazy. But no, that's not it.
All right. Kamaya, may I have a moment to welcome a couple of folks?
Yes.
All right. Well, I want to welcome Barry Johnson and his evil twin, Barry Johnson. They're here to essentially cancel each other out. And I'm just kidding. I don't know Barry yet. Welcome, Barry. There's two of you here, which is a good thing. And Eddie, welcome, Eddie. I think Eddie's in Ireland. Is that right, James? Anyway, welcome all to the Food Healers segment of the 24-hour Collective Intelligence Block Party. This has been Station Identification. Now back to Kamaya.
Alrighty, what has a lot of holes but still can hold water? I'm trying to cover Grandpa, but it's hard to because I don't have a big one.
Cloud in the shape of a donut.
Huh? No, that only has one.
A bunch of clouds that look like donuts?
No! Have you guessed yet?
A donut shop in the clouds.
No! Why are you thinking about donuts? They're not vegan!
I haven't had.
He hasn't had food yet.
What do you mean? I haven't had food yet. What do you mean? Yeah, all right.
What's the answer?
A sponge. But my sponge is very nasty, so I'm not gonna bring it. It's very nasty. Alrighty.
I was gonna say a bucket.
I have my joke.
bucket.
Be right back.
Actually, I'd like to point something out here, which is actually quite profound. I just want to ask folks to mute. Ray, thank you. So what I want to point out is what's happening right now is a really good indication of the health of this collective intelligence, because when a child feels safe to be fully expressed and sing and joke and this and that, right? That's a really good indication that compassion and love are in the house. So thank you, Kamaya. And thank you, Silas. Thank you all.
I saw more.
She brought her whole book of jokes, so you're in trouble now.
All right.
Why is he in trouble? I'm
No,
vegan.
No, we're not in trouble. This is a really good thing that's happening, because here's the thing, Kamaya, you don't know this yet because you haven't been a grown-up yet, but sometimes when you get to be a grown-up, and hopefully this never happens to you because you're helping us transform the world into a loving place. But in the old world that we came from, I was born in 1968, it was a world of separation and competition and hoarding, right? And now, thankfully, we're coming out of that world and into the new world. But what you are doing, Kamaya, is you are reminding us of what our essence is, and that is love. Love and connection, right? You are a love bug, Kamaya. So add me to the list of people who call you love bug. Going on mute.
Alrighty, next riddle. I'm reading that out of the joke book. What tells the time but doesn't need no... Wait. What tells the time but needs no winding?
Rooster?
How, Jamin? How?
That little clock on the top of my computer.
That's true.
No.
Don't you have one?
Yeah, see, this one doesn't need
Is
winding.
this an old joke book?
Okay. Oh, okay. Hold on, I'm trying to find a good one so none of you find it before. Oh, okay. You bring me for dinner, but never eat me. What am I?
A ceramic plate?
Oh.
That's a good one.
You'll never guess it.
I don't know, my mom?
No!
Your appetite?
That's a good one, but no. But you fill it up more. Lower down.
Kamaya,
Yes?
hey, look, I've got a puzzle for you.
Sorry.
So, what is full of holes and holds water? What is full of holes yet holds water?
A sponge. I already said this one. And
Sorry.
oh Lord. Okay, Auntie Jackie, I've got the joke book, so this is gonna get messy. Alrighty, I'll read the other one that I already said, but we haven't said the answer yet. You bring me for dinner, but you never eat me. What am I? Alrighty, I'll give you a clue. You can lick it. Well, you use it, but you just don't eat it. Yep. That's my only clue. So
I mean,
you're
Jamin's
lucky.
answer is correct too, right? He said a plate.
No.
That's another answer. Yeah.
Well, he gets a half a point. Okay. I'll give him a half of a point. Okay. But it's a fork and a knife. A knife and a fork. A fork and a knife, I don't know.
That was going to be my next guess, Kamaya.
And these riddles, they aren't hard. Okay. Oh, which one should I do? Okay. Oh, they're never gonna get good one. What is orange and sounds like a parrot? You're never gonna guess it. Never gonna guess it. No, I'm serious. Never gonna guess it.
Yeah, I was going to guess
Parrot.
parrot too.
Eaglefish. Just eaglefish.
They got it, right? Carrot.
Oh no. Okay, I'm gonna think of a good one. I can't do that one because I already did it. Oh, okay. What has green hair, a round red head, a long thin white beard? That's probably it. Oh, I don't know.
The Grinch.
The Grinch? He says no.
No. Wait, the Grinch is green, not red. What has oh, now I think I know why you said Grinch. Yeah. But no. Here, I'll read it again.
I'm
What?
surprised that Jamin isn't getting it. Okay.
What has green hair, a round red head, and a long thin white beard? Jamin, think.
A radish.
Yes.
Or it could be yourself because you have a white beard. That's
No,
no.
I'd have to dye my hair green, but I can do that.
And you have to paint yourself red. So.
But it's a radish, you're right.
Okay. Oh. Okay. Zachary's parents had 3 sons: Snap, Crackle, and I feel like if I
Is the answer Pop?
huh? Sorry, Ryan, I didn't hear you.
Is the answer Pop? What if Zachary's nickname was Pop?
No.
Then I'll say Zachary.
Yes.
It's like,
I mean, that feels just. Okay. Hold on. Well, maybe like 4 more.
4 more.
What belongs to you but is used more by others? You have a guess? Anyone
Your
have a guess?
name. Your name.
Yes.
First guess is off!
That's awesome. Good.
You don't use your name a lot?
Huh?
You don't use your name a lot?
You used K-Mama, which is my nickname. Boom! You used it twice as much. You use Kamaya a lot, and you use K-Mama a lot, which is my nickname, so. I'm trying to snap, but I have lotion on my hands. Man. Okay. Okay. I was looking at that one. What question can you never answer yes to? You're never. Wait, no, I'm not gonna say that because you've already guessed it a lot of times. So I'm not gonna say that.
I think Kelly knows it.
Kelly knows it.
No, Ray got it. Ray got it. Or Ray thinks he's got it.
Are you sleeping?
How do you get every single word right?
She said, "Are you dead?" So, much maybe too tragic version of that joke.
I didn't think that was kid friendly.
Wouldn't have been in that kid's book.
What is four eyes but can't see? Squeak. What
A
is
potato?
four eyes but can't
A potato? I'm sorry, Kamai. I didn't know potatoes were such a sensitive issue.
There's a potato. Do you see any eyes?
Yeah, there are lots of eyes. See, there are eyes.
Yeah, but there's not four. There's. Well, no, those are growing.
How
Is
about
it
this?
Mississippi?
Yeah, Mississippi. I was about to ask. I was about to guess that.
Mississippi. He said Mississippi.
What?
Mississippi.
Who said Mississippi?
Jamin.
And Ray.
Ray. And Ray. That's right.
What? Okay.
Ray has this book. I'm telling you, he's read this book.
Probably not. Maybe not all of it. Alrighty, here you pick one. I'm gonna try and read James or Ray's
Maybe
mind.
just some of the books are the jokes are old enough that I remember them when I was your age.
Okay.
I remember.
Okay.
I remember a joke that you say back at the joke teller is when Jesus comes back, the only thing he's going to recognize are your jokes.
Alrighty, we have our next one. Here, you say it. This
Yeah,
turn.
you read it.
No, your turn.
Not mine. It's yours.
No, it's your turn.
Okay.
Read it.
All right. 3 men were in a boat. It capsized, but only 2 got their hair wet. Why?
Because the third guy was bald.
Yeah, that's right.
What? All right, this one's not a riddle. It's gonna be a pun. Pun. Do, 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 do. Sorry, I'm singing. Alrighty. When do truck drivers stop to eat? Whenever there's a fork in, whenever they come to a fork in the road.
Have you ever tried to eat with a fork in the road?
No,
How
I
do you
meant a
say-
forklift. Like a forklift.
Even I'm not that hungry.
Then why are you saying donuts all the time? You said you were hungry! Huh?
Pretty hungry, but not forklift of donuts hungry. Not yet.
Oh, jeez. Velcro, what a ripoff. Here, let me say it in a different way. Velcro, what a ripoff. Okay. And now I have to say it in a different way. Oh, okay. Why was
Your delivery.
Cinderella cut from the soccer team? Even I'm reading it and I think it's funny. She ran away from the ball.
I was gonna say because she had glass slippers. Seems inadvisable for soccer. Ran away from the ball.
But she did run away from the ball. The ball, like dancing ball, not the soccer ball. Well, she could have run away from the soccer ball. You never know. It could ruin her grass slippers or scratch it. Oh. Time flies like an arrow. Fruit flies like a banana.
I didn't know the bananas could fly.
No, fruit flies fly.
I know. I get it.
Okay. Next one. I gotta pick a. Oh, wait a minute. What happened to the wait? Let's do wait for it. Okay. I have a big one. A duck waddles into the grocery store to buy a can of soda. The clerk looks down at him and asks, "Would you like to pay cash or credit?" The duck replies, "Just put it on my bill." Just put it on my bill.
Yeah. Well, why complicate it? Just put it on her bill.
Okay. Oh, these are the good ones. Okay. David is hungry and stops at the local restaurant for a bowl of soup. The waiter brings it over and places it on the table in front of him. David's stomach rumbles with hunger. He picks up his spoon, excited, and he takes his first bite. Then he sneezes.
No, freezes.
He freezes. Nestled among the tasty noodle is a fly. "Waiter!" he calls. "Waiter!" The waiter rushes over. "Yes? What is this fly doing in my soup?" The waiter leans over and his nose almost touching the bowl, replies, "The backstroke." I still don't get it.
Yeah, he's doing the backstroke like that, swimming.
Oh, gee. Oh, gee. Oh, galore. Let's do this one.
I know I heard that one when I was your age. We got joke books at the library and had that joke in it for sure.
Oh, man. Okay, sorry. Jennifer goes to visit her friend and is amazed to find her playing chess with her dog. Interesting. The little Shih Tzu sits on the cushion and Jennifer watches. The fascination as the dog little front paw accurately moves pieces. Excuse me. Moves pieces. around the board. I could hardly believe my eyes, Jennifer exclaims in astonishment. Her friend waves her hand in dismissal. Sorry, man. Wait. Oh, she's not so smart. I've been beating her 3 games out of 5.
Okay.
Alrighty, that's enough for me. You guys are wearing me out.
Beautiful,
You
Kamaya.
guys are wearing me out.
Thank you, Kamaya. Kamaya, are you okay?
I'm disappearing now.
Disappearing.
Sure. But you know, what a beautiful thing to see Kamaya growing up with this medium, right? Where, you know, it's just like, imagine a few years in the future, there's some crisis, some problem. Well, let's just get the collective intelligence together and figure it out, right? Start it off with a couple of jokes, get everyone laughing, and then, all right, let's figure this thing out, right?
Yeah.
Because what she is reminding us of is precisely our humanity, our true humanity, who we really are. We are love and connection, right? She's reminding us of that.
And that idea of everybody getting together to solve problems, it's so amazing when it works because there's no corporate obstacle to it. We had that hole in the ozone layer, and all the countries in the world got together and in Montreal and created the Montreal Accord. Why? Because there was no big freon to put a stick in the spokes to prevent it from happening. And unfortunately, they came to the conclusion that they should switch to HCFCs instead of CFCs, or whichever is the correct letters. And they switched to refrigerants that are, when released into the atmosphere, 1,000 times worse than carbon dioxide as a planet warming gas. So it's a bit of an oops, but the same group got together and, you know, they are able to come to the conclusion, okay, we're going to have to switch over all of our refrigerants and find safe ways of disposing of what we've used. And again, there's not that much opposition. There's a little bit. There's, you know, a little bit of you first, and it's actually the United States that I think is causing the most problems in the negotiations. But we know with Project Drawdown, they've measured all the solutions, the best solutions for fighting climate change between now and 2050. And refrigeration management was number 1. And it's the one that, like, as it gathers attention, it's also going to gather attention to see what we can do when we can actually talk, when we don't have any obstacle, when we don't have that those corporate interests saying, oh, hold on now, we don't want to be making policies here. Policies cost jobs. Policies cost people money. So it's the example of how we could solve the other 80 solutions that they've proposed. And solar radiation management, which is, as Javen points out, none of the above for drawdown is preventing the heat from getting here in the first place.
See, that was a problem for which there was a solution that did not involve disrupting the economy, disrupting the growth of the economy. In fact, DuPont had a better gas, a better refrigerant that they realized they can make more money off of it. So they said, okay, you know, we don't mind solving this problem, you know. Whereas now we are saying we are at the end of our rope and we cannot grow the economy anymore. So the old model has to change. That is very disruptive to the current system, right? Which is why you're seeing all these, the sort of friction about, solving this problem. Because you are asking for a massive shift in who we are, in the economic model, in our social model. Yeah, so I think that's why you're seeing the reluctance of the current system, because they're not going to be making money off of it. It's a different model altogether that we're talking about. But clearly, this is something that has to come from the bottom up. This is why the conversation is the right way to go about it, because it is more of it's a grassroots solution, and mutual aid is another way to go. It's basically grassroots people saying, we can solve this problem ourselves. Who can come and volunteer? Who can come and help with this and that? So I would say conversation combined with mutual aid. That's the future.
And and more generally, it's conversation followed by action. Because let's say we all get together and we're just stymied by some problem. It's really confusing. Well, we sit down, we start talking, we talk, we whiteboard, we pour some more coffee, we sit back and listen, have some snacks, and then that's it. I got it. And we talk about it. Yeah, really, really. Then we refine it. There gets a point where there is nothing left to do but act, right? But thought and conversation, which is really coordination and cooperation, leads to that right action. So yes, Silas, totally agree. Start with conversation, then we can go wherever we need to go from there.
Silas or anybody, but what do you guys think about, because we're talking about, I've seen this for a while, like it seems like we won't get all the solutions we need ultimately until, corporations figure out a way to make it profitable, and then we move forward. It kind of seems to be the way it works. Like, is that what's going on with other aspects of energy, like clean energy? Like I always feel like, but I don't know enough about how this stuff works to know factually, but aren't we collectively intelligent enough to use this, new phrase that I love, as a human race to have clean energy? Like, I know we've tested solar, it's out there. We've tested wind, it's out there. Things like this, but it's not being used on a large scale. And I always feel like it must have something to do with, maybe it's not practical for anybody to figure out a way to profit off of that. But is it that, or are we really not intelligent? Do we not have the means, the ability to build the infrastructure or whatever to make it happen on a large scale? Or is it really because of money and the corporate interests haven't figured out a way how to corner that market and profit off of it? I'd love to hear anybody who knows anything about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jamin, I'm sure you have a lot to say about it too, but in the past, what has always happened is when a new energy source comes in, it doesn't displace the old one. It just creates a growth. So the whole thing just grows even more, So the new energy source comes in, and then the old energy source continues to grow. The new energy source also grows, and so then you have more energy to use. And it gets more and more cornered by a few people at the top, right? And that's been the pattern so far. And so they're trying to do that because that's the pattern of the current game. The current game is a game of monopoly in which the people who have cornered the market are trying to get more and more, because they're trying to figure out who wins and who loses. That's the game you're playing. And so when solar and wind come in, it has just grown the whole energy pie. It hasn't displaced the old one. It just becomes another source of energy, right? Because that's the game we are playing. So unless you fundamentally change the game we are playing, you will never replace fossil fuels with solar. It'll always grow, right? And when we change the game we play, we'll discover that we really don't need so much energy as we are using today. There's so much that we are wasting left and right. It's the same thing that we are doing with food, right? We are grabbing 6 times as much food from the planet as we need, and yet almost 1 billion people are going hungry. That's because we are using most of that food to feed our animals, you know. So we are creating an artificial scarcity from a natural abundance. In the same way, in almost every aspect of our civilization, we are wasting. We are wasting like 90% of everything we get, right? We deliberately make things fail so that we can sell another one to the person. So this is how we are designing our products. And if you ask an engineer, can you design a product that will last a long time? They can obviously do that, you know, today. But they're not being asked to do it. They're being asked to create something that fails. They've been asked to put the battery in a way that it cannot be changed. Okay, that's how Apple is telling its engineers to design the product, right? So we have created this planned obsolescence, you know, and this enormous waste in our resources, which is why when we really change the game, you will discover that we are actually in a world of abundance, you know, and that no one is going to be lacking anything, you know, if we just do a good job of distributing the resources. So literally, if you take civilization and put a bunch of NASA engineers and tell them, you know, how would you redesign this? They can tell you that, you know, you'll have a civilization in which everyone is fed, everyone is happy, and a lot of people have a lot of leisure, and everyone gets everything they need. You know? So that's where we are headed.
Sounds wonderful.
Well, I just came up with a really cool hypothesis. So in this new world, see, in the current game, the name of the game is hoarding. How much can you accumulate, right? As I look out over the Salish Sea, since it's 4th of July weekend, we have just seen a steady stream of massive yachts, like multi-$10 million yachts, just cruising by, because in the current game, that's one of the ultimate status symbols. Hey, I got this giant $40 million yacht. Bill Gates is in the process of building a $500 million yacht. I think I might have heard that from you, Silas. But anyway, in the new game, imagine that in the new game, right, the peak experience is not cruising in your yacht and just giving the one finger salute to everyone around you, including the starving. But imagine that the peak experience in the new game is precisely this: co-creating solutions that save species, that save ecosystems, that save people, right? And that transform us more and more and more towards that world that we all want, right? I mean, for me, my happiest moments are with you all, right? Including Melissa, of course, but all of us just coming together and sorting this out. This is just a whole new world. In my experience, when we do this, when we do these long format conversations, I have an experience of just being teleported to a whole new world, where even 30 minutes before, I'm worried about money, I'm worried about whatever, lots of things, right? I'm worried about time, I'm worried about this, that, whatever. But when I'm in this world, that starts to evaporate, right? And I'm like, this is where it's at. And then imagine that if people coming together without having to travel, without having to get on planes and pollute and all this stuff, if this becomes essentially the end game, then the question is, all right, you know, how do I make sure I've got plenty of food to eat so that I can do more of this, right? How do we all make sure we have plenty of food to eat? And so the game becomes radically different from this game of hoarding and conspicuous consumption, right? As a measure of importance or value, right? So Welcome, Danny. Good to see you, Danny. Welcome. All righty. So, with that in mind, this network of conversations, this benevolent collective superintelligence, really, for me, can become that crystallizing force, that galvanizing force that really helps us all get oriented properly towards the game of life, not the game of hoarding, which is really, truly the game of death. We've all been forced into this game of death, but it was sold to us as, you know, financial independence, right? I can remember being in school 8, 9, 10 years old and talking with my classmates, ooh, if I had this much money, we'd never have to work again and it would all be fun. I mean, it's like it was brainwashed into us that the more you accumulate, the happier you'll be, right? And certainly we see plenty of examples out in the world of people choosing their partners, their sexual partners, their life partners, where money is a big factor in that, right? And so it's really a game of life or death on so many levels, but it's the wrong game. So by teleporting to this new alternate reality where we are right now, we get to co-create a different universe, a different world, right? Even if it's just in conversation. But the critical point comes when our collective intelligence reaches a multiple relative to the old world's intelligence, that we just start running circles around it and just transforming the game. Is that Barry? Is that Barry? Welcome,
Hello,
Barry.
hello.
Hey.
How are you?
Great.
I've been in the
Barry.
background. I've been in the background for a while now, and oh man, some of the things you said have just been so beautiful. Hello, hello.
Hey, Barry. Love you, man.
Love you too. Yeah, I'm so excited.
Yay. Thank you for being here with us.
Of course.
Beautiful.
All righty. Well, in
Please
9
continue.
yeah, sorry, Barry, go ahead.
I was saying, please continue.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, in 9 minutes, we start the Divine Feminine segment, for which Barry is one of our honored guest speakers. Do people need a break before top of the hour? We started at 6 o'clock in the morning, Barry, as you may know, the 24-hour collective intelligence block party.
Yep. Yeah, I've been on for about the last hour. I just haven't turned my video on.
Yeah. No, totally cool. It's totally fine to just be here, just chilling. That's one of the rules of the block party, actually, is that no one is ever pressured to speak or turn on their camera or anything of the sort. It's totally fine to just chill. We're trying to create this as the ultimate safe space for connection and compassion and sharing.
I'll probably check out. I got some stuff to do, but I'm going to try to check in to the food healer stuff sometimes. I also have casual coffee talks meetings with some of my coworkers too on Fridays, but we had this Friday off. But I'm going to try to check in on this sometimes, because this is the thing that's been bothering me for a while, like getting involved, like being in a faith community myself. And, you know, sometimes we'll do stuff where we're, distributing food or things like that. But then there's always the conflict with, obviously, I don't want to give out the food that they want to give. I know y'all know what I'm talking about. So I'm kind of curious to find out how I can put my compassion for animals, my compassion for people together in this way. And so I'm going to try to stay attached to what's going on here. And then hopefully there'll be ways to implement that. So I'll be checking in on this every now and then, but I'm going to get on with my other stuff. It's been awesome talking to you guys today and hanging out. And Kamaya is beautiful. That's so great having her here. We'll talk to y'all later.
All right, Vince, and just feel free to just pop in, pop out, turn off your camera, listen in the background, whatever you need to do. And I would encourage you to check the schedule, which just got refreshed in the middle of the night, because there's some really cool stuff on today's venue. So check it out, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, talk to you later, Jamie.
Thank you, Vince. Alrighty, and I would propose that we basically take a break. I'll pause recording. We're still live streaming, and feel free to just hang out and chat in the meantime. And we'll start a new recording at the top of the hour, or whenever Jackie gives me the green light. All right, so we're officially on break, but feel free to keep chatting it up. I'll be back in a few.
Thank you. I have to get going. I have another one at 9 o'clock. So
Okay. Very good. Very good.
All right.
All right, Silas. Well, we'll see you soon. And
see you soon.
lots of good stuff to come. Thanks so much. Kamaya, love you so much, sweetheart. Thank you so much for being here. All right.
Is the broadcast schedule on Radish?
It is. So if you go to radish.org and then
Yep.
and then click on the banner at the top, which says Block Party, Collective Intelligence Block Party.
Okay.
On the Block Party page, full schedule, links, all kinds of good stuff.
Okay, hon. Thanks a bunch.
Sure. All right. We'll see you all in a few.